Good morning, Your Royal Highness. It's good to see you again after such a long time. And good afternoon, afternoon, Minister.
Good afternoon.
Good
Good
afternoon
morning,
to
Your Royal
everybody
Highness.
here in the room, and also to our friends and viewers online. We have now come to the In Conversation with His Royal Highness, which is, in effect, the highlight of the Singapore Energy Summit at SIEW. And right now, and I think it's fitting because this is the very first time that Singapore is hosting a hybrid seminar like this at this time of year. And in fact, it's the first time I think that it's ever been done at this prestigious event. Well, to begin with, perhaps I could invite Minister Dr. Tan ChuanJin to give some introductory remarks.
Thank you.
Minister?
Thank you. Good afternoon from Singapore, Your Royal Highness. Thank you.
Good afternoon, and good morning from Saudi Arabia.
Thank you. Thank you very much indeed for joining us today at the Singapore Energy Summit at SIEW 2020. His Royal Highness needs no introduction. He is well known to the international community. However, please still allow me the privilege of briefly introducing His Royal Highness to all of you, our global audience here at the Singapore Energy Summit. His Royal Highness is an influential thought leader of the energy industry with over 3 decades of distinguished service and experience. And I must say, ladies and gentlemen, he must have started very, very young because he still looks a very energetic and young and sprightly 30-year-old. So prior to joining the Saudi government, His Royal Highness headed the Economic and Industrial Studies Department at the King Fahd University of Petroleum and Minerals Research Institute. He subsequently held several key appointments at the Saudi Energy Ministry, including the Minister of State for Energy Affairs, and has been the Minister of Energy since September 2019. His Royal Highness is also the chairman of the board of Saudi Arabia's King Abdullah City for Atomic and Renewable Energy. He's a board member of Saudi Arabia's High Committee for Hydrocarbons, and he's also a member of the Board of Governors of the Oxford Institute for Energy Studies. His Royal Highness has been a leading voice for a resilient and stable global energy market. And when the global markets in the first half of this year, when it was facing extreme instability due to the impact of COVID-19, His Royal Highness played an instrumental and a defining role to rally the OPEC Plus countries to stabilize the energy markets. At the Saudi G20 Energy Ministerial meeting earlier this year, His Royal Highness introduced the Circular Carbon Economy, or CCE concept, which is an integrated and inclusive approach to managing emissions. Singapore welcomes the CCE approach with a 4Rs framework of reduce, reuse, recycle, and remove. The CCE approach aligns with our Singapore energy story, and it will be a useful guide for us in Singapore to improve our long-term energy resilience and sustainability. In that regard, Singapore and the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia are working towards a memorandum of understanding to strengthen our bilateral energy cooperation with a focus on the CCE approach. Your Royal Highness, we are honored today indeed to listen to your views on the evolving global energy landscape and how we can work together for a sustainable energy future. Your Royal Highness, please.
Thank you, Minister Tan. Dr. Tan, you have humbled me enough today. Anyway, this has been what I know of Singaporean. You all are gracious enough and inviting enough and congenial enough to make sure that your guests, your visitors, will always, even from afar, and even with a virtually, still your generosity will be overwhelming to the extent that one would make it somewhat almost mandatory to be supportive and congenial and collaborative with a country like Singapore and the people of Singapore. It's a country that I visited for a few times. I know the people, and I know quite a few Singaporeans. I've dealt with them. I've always took Singapore as an exemplary country for how you can harness every resource available. And certainly the most valuable resource is human resource. And with little natural resources and with all the challenges that you had to undergo historically and even recently over this last few years, that you have managed to grow as an ideal model for development. But I truly raise my hat, and I still believe that for all developing countries, Singapore should become the model and is the model for any country to aspire to approach development. With that in mind, I still believe, as we've talked, Dr. Tan, that there is nothing that compensates from being physically in Singapore, rubbing elbows with the people of Singapore, and seeing the diversity of Singapore. Again, a diversity that brought richness and wealthness to the culture and to the diversity that you have is a source of wealth and a source of variety of experience that again painted the colorful picture of Singapore.
Well, thank you, Your Royal Highness. I think this brings us to a very interesting segment of the session, which will be the question and answer session. And the questions are coming in thick and fast, according to my colleagues, but perhaps I could just kick off the session with a couple of questions to you. And the first question would be something I think everybody in this room and watching would be very interested to hear, given Saudi Arabia's importance in terms of being one of the world's largest oil producers. So could I ask, what are your Royal Highness's views on the outlook of the global oil market? And the crucial question, do you see a recovery underway?
We've seen a recovery. Well, first of all, good afternoon, Ambassador Anderson. It's been a while.
Yes.
But we have seen a recovery. I want to make sure that people do not underestimate what has happened and what has been done over the last few months. This is a big classical so-called, I would say an exemplary recovery activity that has taken. We should not underestimate the effectiveness of every country in the world attendance to this situation. I still believe that first and foremost, this crisis is more or less human crisis as opposed to any other thing. Everything else comes secondary. I think the loss of loved ones, I think the discovery of how maybe our health care systems were not well equipped to attend to a situation as severe as this, and the recovery, short-lived recovery of our healthcare systems generally and internationally is something to talk about for so many years to come. So in essence, with a great deal of varieties, of course, and differences, but overall, the recovery has started and it has been there. Otherwise, you will not see markets as they are today. The scare or the fear now is for a reoccurrence of a second wave. But I'm optimistic in the sense that I think everybody had learned harsh and tough lessons of attending to the first wave. So I think the healthcare systems in the world are much more equipped to attend to the situation. I think public awareness is high. with those grave experiences that people underwent. So in essence, I think what we need to do is to continue working, attending, and improving the world economy and local economies, yet ensuring that we will abide by what Dr. Tan and in his experience with advisors to do, social distancing, ensuring that we wear masks, taking all these precautionary measures. If we do that, I do believe that we can, weather through this stormy period, and ensure also that we continue our vision to the future, yet accepting the challenge and living with this challenge until we find a good way to recover from it in the form of vaccines and what have you. I still believe that collective efforts will prevail. The more we bring ourselves to the idea that we are living in one crisis, and as COVID had shown us, a virus that does spread all over the world, and indeed it allows people to reconsider globalization and ensure that truly globalization should prevail, because it's the only way that we can all recover from any disaster, this one or any other in the future.
Yes, thank you very much, Your Royal Highness. I think all of us share your sentiments that we should not underestimate the seriousness of the pandemic, and that social distancing, wearing of masks, and other precautions are necessary during this particular time to help us get over the COVID situation as quickly as possible. Thank you for your views on the outlook of the global oil market also. But the Singapore Energy Summit is also a broader thing, a broader issue. It's a question about the energy areas and all that. So one of the other questions I've got to ask as a follow-on to this is something which I'm sure everybody would be very interested to listen to, on the question of the Kingdom's views on the energy transition. Now, in particular about the G20 energy ministers recently endorsed the circular carbon economy framework under the Kingdom's presidency. Several of the speakers earlier on had alluded to this, Your Royal Highness. But I think everybody would want to listen to your perspective on why this is so important, and perhaps maybe your observations on one or two of what you would consider to be the challenges in which to have the successful implementation of the circular carbon economy.
Well, I have not yet to see any serious people that had attended to their life as free riders. Singapore, again, is a case in point. You never had a free ride in how you evolved in your economy and how you prospered. So, in essence, what we believe in is that truly we cannot compete with technology or fight technology. We should actually harness technology and advance technology and promote technologies. If we do, we will be able to attend to all or most of the occupying issues that are occupying the mind of the world thinkers. And in essence, one of the issues that are prevailing today, and we must head it forefrontly, which is climate change. Now, the jurors are out advancing so many recipes and so many prescriptions of how to attend to it. We thought that in order to gain a momentum to ensure that everybody in the world could be a contributor to this effort of mitigating climate change and bringing temperature down to 2%, is probably a more inclusive approach, whereby it really focuses people's mind set on mitigating the real issue, which is climate change emanating from emissions. So we have to take care of all emissions that do contribute to climate change. We should not be too facetious about a gas, particular gas than the other. And we should look at all options to mitigate and to facilitate the reduction of the emissions of these gases. If we look at that in a broader aspect and ask everybody to congregate around this common dominator, which is a reduction of emissions, we came up with this. Well, we did not come up with it. It was in the literature, whereby you have an approach that allows you to use 4 different approaches or sub-approaches to attend to this quest, which is reduce, and that can come through the form of reduction of consumption or changing your energy mix or efficiency, or even a combination of efficiency, price reform, and fuel switching, recycling, and reuse. That has another additional value because it does appreciate that all of these emitted gases has some so-called material components, and it could be utilized again as a material to be used for production of other things. And there is the concept of remove, which comes in the form of sinks, plantation, looking after putting mangroves, and ensuring that forestry will be maintained and forest will be preserved. In fact, extending and expanding these things as sinks will be important. To gain a global appreciation and a global commitment, you have to focus on these issues as opposed to focusing on getting rid of a particular fuel of a choice. I think the idea of intertwining, getting rid of hydrocarbon and also in the form of and then you would be also reducing emissions is a far-fetched, unrealistic approach and unrealistic objective. And it shows that there is a tainted objective as opposed to, it would be conceived to me as a way to hide the real objective, which is to get rid of oil and gas and do that cover up to ensure that climate change will be used to attend to that objective. So the more, if you could call it hidden objective, is the more attended to, as opposed to the real objective, which is to attend to climate change and the reduction of emissions. We brought it to the table as clear as the sun. We talked about it, and we also, along with our friends from Singapore and many other countries, saw the point that, there is nothing wrong with saying, if you want the whole world to collaborate, let us focus on reduction of temperature and through reduction of emission, and let's not focus on the fuel of choice, but rather how we can mitigate and adapt to these realities without showing any preferences on the choice of fuel, because each and every country in the world is well endowed with some resources, and these resources need to be exploited. And if we want to be realists and we want to make sure that everybody contribute, we better be mindful of these so-called indigenous choices and indigenous endowments.
Thank you for your elaboration, Your Royal Highness. As Minister Tan had said just now, Singapore fully endorses the circular carbon economy, and we recognize Saudi Arabia's leadership in leading us on this path. But now perhaps I can throw open the questions from the floor. And this comes from Professor Andy Ho from A*STAR. And he has posed this interesting question: how can Singapore and the Kingdom work together towards a low-carbon economy for both our countries?
Well, we don't believe to start with a low carbon economy. We believe in low emission economy. I think this is what the CCE does. I think we could get there when we also, as I said, recycle and reuse. You will have, to me, carbon is a material. It depends what you do with it. If you emit it along with other gases, you will cause harm. If you sequester it and make use of it, you will actually benefit from it. So again, it is this terminologies that I'm not at ease with, because the purpose is not to go for low carbon economy. The purpose is to go for low emission economies. So we in Singapore will be working with each other and hopefully can create an exemplary relationship of where can we use our resources, be it from Singapore and technology and human capabilities, and also working with us on developing these technologies. And from our end, how can we demonstrate to the world that you can coexist and combine the two in one, exploiting your natural resources, make use of it, export it, consume it, and yet with the minimalist impact on the environment. We do it in the upstream. If you ask any oil company in the world, you would see that our emissions as Aramco, from all of our upstream all the way to exporting, be it crude oil products or even liquid gases, we stand tall ahead of every other company in the world of how low our emissions are. If we can create, so that's why, when I was talking about CCE in different forums, I was saying we would certainly will not be part of the problem when it comes to climate change. We would certainly we would not like to be part of the solution. Actually, our aspiration and our objective is to be leading in creating these solutions. I guess there is only one way to do that, is to monitor us, see us, and look at whom we are collaborating with and how serious we are in this collaboration. We know it is very crucial and it's very important that as we are sitting on the biggest hydrocarbon resource in the world, reserves in the world, we will have to make sure that we use it, and we use it to the fullest. And for us to do that, we have to make sure that we also produce it and consume it, and look for ways to consume it that would not put us in a harm way with the world economy or the convenience of the consumer. The consumer requires now clean products, clean energy. And for that to happen, we have to work with our friends and collaborators in ensuring that this happens.
Thank you, Your Royal Highness. Your point is well taken. And so if I can proceed and bring the question back to oil. Compliance rates to the OPEC Plus agreement have been impressive under Your Royal Highness's leadership. Could you explain what were the attributing factors to this?
I cannot certainly attribute it to myself. Because again, I keep telling friends and peers that luckily, I certainly have my shortcomings, lots of shortcomings. But if you ask my wife and children, they probably will give you quite a long list of shortcomings. But certainly one of them is not egotism. I believe in group effort. I believe in bottom-up approaches that would deliver us. And I, ever since I became the minister, I did engage with my colleagues, other OPEC ministers, OPEC Plus ministers, as equal. Because I believe, as again, I keep saying that, regardless of what you produce, so long as you are cutting the same percentages, you should have an equal voice in any table. Because the impact to us as Saudi Arabia or to any other country that produce as low as 300,000 is probably the same, relatively speaking. So I guess engaging people as equal, ensuring that people do understand that the lack of conformity and lack of commitment would undermine these agreements and certainly would undermine the credibility of this agreement to the market, and therefore the market, instead of rewarding us, it would actually penalize us. And the more it penalizes, the less that others who are in conformity would see the point of continuing conforming. And then all of this will cascade down to nothing. So it was not about scaremongering, as I was just outlining it for you. It's a case to give people the sense of importance of basically abiding by what we commit ourselves to. And the mechanism that we installed to ensure that everybody is concurrently executing his commitments, such as the monthly meetings of the monitoring committee, such as the compensation scheme that I came up with. Again, it was all agreed by everybody. So it is not by impositioning. And I believe that people did see and still see the benefit of collaborating and working together. We're not yet out of the woods, as I've said, but there is no other recipe to get us out of the wood but to make sure that we ensure that we carry on our commitments in a credible way. Otherwise, the market would not reward us sufficiently to what we've been doing.
Well taken. Well, my colleagues tell me there are many questions, Your Royal Highness, but I think we are reaching near the end of the time. So perhaps could I, if you don't mind, let me pose you one final question. And what are Your Royal Highness's views on the prospects for US shale in uncertain times?
Well, with the background that somebody in the media in March and April accused us of doing what we have done in April to undermine shale oil, which is now, I think, is history, and quite clearly what we have done as Saudi Arabia and OPEC Plus demonstrated that this has not been a quest for us. I believe I was in an interview with a friend, Daniel Yergin, just a couple of days ago, and I talked to him about, if it wasn't for technology in the 80s and 90s, I think today we would be suffering from the lack of technology, the lack of energy. There will be a shortage of supplies all over the world. So I believe, with the evolution of technologies, there is no harm of technology evolving to ensure that we will continue tap on natural resources that we can use and use it properly. We ourselves very soon will be engaged in shale gas in Jafurah. This technology was harnessed not by us, but actually the shale oil producer and shale gas producers in the US. Technology, there is nothing harmful in terms of bringing technologies that would enable people to exploit resources, and I think we would need every technology in the world. We believe that they are going through challenging time. We are also going through challenging time. Many other, even producer of conventional oil or conventional gas, are going through serious, harsh times. Are they capable of overcoming it? I think they are. Would the technology stand the challenge? I think it would. Does the world need every technology in every aspect of energy to evolve, including efficiency? Yes, the world needs that, because sustainable energy supply is a prerequisite for any development engine. and we should not be scared at all or feel challenged if a technology here comes our way or not. We, as Saudi Arabia, for example, are establishing records when it comes to renewable and solar. We will continue our endeavor to ensure that we will have renewable penetrating our local market for one good reason. The more we use renewable locally and gas locally, we will be able to free some more liquids that are used now to burn for creating water or generating electricity. The more we do that, the more we will free some barrels to be exported. So we are much more fundamentally focused on how we could create, as Saudi Arabia, a resilient, sustainable, efficient, effective, and energy system that serves us domestically and also enable us to be an exporter of energy, including power, including technologies, including even solar paneling. We will be, we will be not part of the solution. Our aspiration, and permit me to have that aspiration, that we would like to take a leading role, an exemplary role to what we can do as a responsible energy producer, not an oil and gas producer.
Thank you, Your Royal Highness. I think we are all very happy to hear what you have just said in terms of your summary, and we've all fully endorsed it. And we would like to thank you for your participation, and we hope that once COVID-19, the pandemic is over, we will hope to see you visit Singapore again so we could welcome you and see you in person. And I'd also like to thank Minister Dr. Tan for this.
Thank you, Lord.
And perhaps invite you to say the final comments in terms of closing this session.
Thank you. First and foremost, Your Royal Highness, thank you very much for gracing us with your presence and for enlightening us with your insights as well as your perspectives. I'm sure every one of us here benefited from a very refreshing and very innovative and forward-looking perspectives that you've shared with us. Your views on a wide range of topics from oil and gas to clean energy, the circular carbon economy, emerging technology, innovation, they've been very useful toward our understanding and also how we should be thinking about planning for our future global energy trends and needs. We look forward to your continued strong leadership on energy developments globally. We also look forward to the strengthening of the bilateral relations between Singapore and the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia in the years ahead. Thank you very much again. I would like to also take this opportunity not just to thank Your Royal Highness, but also to thank our host and our moderator, Lawrence, for a great job. So thank you very much, everyone, and thank you, Your Royal Highness, once again.
If I permit me just a second, Your Excellency, I just cannot wait to be with you in Singapore. I have lots of good friends. I love the place. I promised my family to be there and show them around. Again, it's a town, it's a city, it's a country. It's an incubator of too many good things. But the most important element is the diversity and the cohesion of the society and the focus on how you are evolving, have evolved and will be evolving in the future. It's an exemplary visit for somebody to visit for the first time, and I have to get my children to see how you did what you did in Singapore with all the minimal natural resources that you had around you.
Thank you. Thank you, Your Royal Highness.
Thank you, Your Royal Highness.
The highlight was indeed very nice. Your Royal Highness, thank you. Dr. Tan, thank you. Ambassador Anderson, thank you as well. Thank you, gentlemen.